So the Democratic Alliance has issued yet another warning to President Cyril Ramaphosa, this time threatening a motion of no confidence if he fails to crack down on corruption within his ranks. So this comes hot on the heels of the party's withdrawal from the much-anticipated national dialogue, a move triggered by the recent dismissal of the Deputy Minister for Trade, Industry and Competition, Andrew Whitfield, for an unauthorized trip to the USA. The political temperature is clearly rising within the Government of National Unity, and to help us make sense of it all, we are now joined by the leader of the United Democratic Movement, the UDM, Bantu Holomisa, to share his insights on the current state of the GNU and what these escalating tensions mean for the future of our nation. A very good morning to you, General. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. I want to start off with your assessment of what has transpired over the past week. As the UDM, what do you read into it?
Well, I'm not interested in analyzing the ANC and DA's stew. Let them swim in their stew. But what is needed here is clear that the time for GNU party leaders meeting is urgently needed so that we can take a firm stand on whether or not to continue with this toxic relationship between ANC and DA. The rest of the parties in the GNU cannot be spectators to a tennis match between ANC and DA. The sooner we meet, the better. There has been threats about the vote of no confidence on President Cyril Ramaphosa by DA because he has removed a deputy minister. I don't think that warrants a vote of no confidence. However, the truth of the matter is that the Zondo Commission's findings need to be monitored by Parliament. And Parliament must call the executive to account on what steps they have taken to implement the findings of the Zondo Commission. The rest is just a political posturing. But you cannot, when you have been quiet all along, and then when one of your ministers is removed from the cabinet, all of a sudden you talk about Zondo Commission. We have been saying this for years, say Zondo Commission's findings. Even in my report last week, where I was accounting what I have been doing in the last 12 months, I did raise the issue of the Zondo Commission's findings, that they need to be implemented. We need to make sure that our criminal justice system is at play, but not just to use it to blackmail others. We have to have a plan.
We have to have a plan. So when that meeting does happen amongst the leaders of the GNU, what should be on the agenda?
Well, the first thing is to say the statement of intent needs to be re-looked at, because you will recall that we struggled even to pass the budget. And fortunately, President Cyril Ramaphosa did tell the leaders of the political parties in the GNU that he is organizing a weekend meeting where we can iron out or identify areas, gray areas contained in the statement of intent, and that this romance between ANC and DA has to be sensitive to the rest of the other players who are in the GNU, because they are becoming an embarrassment.
Yeah. Does it at all, General, come across as, now reading into the threats that are made by the Democratic Alliance, the ANC also saying that if the DA wants to leave, that they should leave, the so perceived instability that may cause for governance in the country? Or is it possible that even if the DA was to leave the government of national unity, to push through a coalition, which would be a minority like what we've seen in Gauteng, but still have government continue doing its work?
I don't think we should press panic buttons on that and think that the GNU is going to collapse. No. The DA has no powers to do so. Remember that the ANC, which had 40%, opted to involve all political parties in parliament to run the country. So my impression is that all these parties, including those which are outside, are not against the GNU because they fielded candidates for presidents, except the MK, which was not ready at the time. But the rest of the parties have been negotiating. In fact, even MKP did negotiate with the ANC with a view to be part of the government of national unity. So, but they didn't agree, so it goes with other parties. So this is not going to be the end of the day if the DA decides to leave or is removed. But there might be no need for that for now. We need to meet as leaders. ANC must stop talking to DA alone, giving them the impression that they've got veto powers. There are more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parties which are part of this. And we need to interpret the decision of the voters that they said no more one-party state or two parties or two parties to run the country. But they said go and share the power and deliver services to the people. That's all.
Yeah. The budget votes get underway from today up until Friday, and the Democratic Alliance over the weekend stating that they will not be voting in favor of departments that are led by ministers who they don't deem to be fit to be part of the executive. As the UDM, is this a concern at all? Because I think part of trying to create a coalition government is also to ensure that the budgets actually get voted on. What do you then make of this stance that has been taken by the DA? And is there possibility of a crisis for these ministries, already considering that we have had a delay with the national budget itself being adopted?
I'm not worried about that because that is the view of the DA. I don't think other political parties will be that silly, because the money which has been allocated has to be approved and go and attend to services. The education and many other departments which are threatened, we have to deliver services in those departments. So anyone, therefore, who says I'm not going to approve the budget for these departments while he or she is serving in the government, I think that would be inviting trouble for that party. That's why other people are saying, President Ramaphosa, be firm, just show these people the door. Maybe they can be effective opposition parties outside the government.
Do you think that they should be shown the door?
Personally, if I was the president, I would have done so a long time ago, because you cannot violate the agreements which we entered into. Take, for instance, this issue of the dialogue. Mm-hmm. Everybody has agreed on that in the GNU. All of a sudden now, when their deputy is chased away, they use a blackmail tactic of saying we are not going to go to the dialogue. So what's the point of them serving in the government if they are going to take decision at cabinet level and then somebody outside the government has got veto powers? So they are not ready for this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I guess that's the other thing, right, General, is that you have the statement of intent that is there. The leaders of the various political parties that are part of the government of national unity have assented to that, has signed it. But itself, though, on its own, doesn't have the binding nature that is sometimes required. Right now, it's almost like you're only relying on the sensibility of the political parties to come to the fore and ensure that the statement of intent is adhered to. Just another example with the clause number 19 in the statement of intent, which speaks about when there is consensus that is needed if there's no agreement. The Democratic Alliance saying that the clearing of house mechanism that has been created is also a fuss because it is trying to bypass clause number 19, and therefore they are even pulling out of that.
That is their view, contradicting themselves in any way, because they are part and parcel of those forums, both the statement of intent as well as the clearinghouse. They are participants in those agreements. So I'm not going to waste your time and the time of the viewers. These people are spoilers, finish and clear.
All right. General, just a quick final one as we conclude our conversation. We're having a conversation this morning asking our viewers about what's happening in the Eastern Cape with the floods. Perhaps maybe firstly your assessment around how government is responding to the floods in the Eastern Cape, and then also the decision of the Premier to take leave during this particular period.
Well, the issue of the Eastern Cape is unfortunate, and we don't seem to have reacted quickly as a government. Even after President Cyril Ramaphosa has gone to Eastern Cape to inspect the area, the dragging of feet by the administration has embarrassed the government. And I hope that we will pull up our socks. But as you know, we people now are beginning to express fears that even those millions which have been blessed, given the previous experience, they may not reach the people. But I hope that Minister of Cocta, Presidency, and the Eastern Cape government will wake up this time around. Remember that those officials even stole the money to bury Mr. Mandela, and then you also saw how during the time of COVID, how these monies were stolen. But this time around, I've been going down there in the last 2 weeks, and I've encouraged people that they must participate and form committees to work with the government. As far as my Premier Mabuyane is concerned, that is a matter which would need him personally. I cannot judge him on that because I'm not sure as to when did he take leave. When did he plan all these things? And as well as did he delegate somebody? Because I always see him on TV talking about this disaster. He was on the ground. So he's an individual, a person, a human being who must also attend to other family needs.
All right. Thank you so much for that. That is the leader of the UDM, Bantu Holomisa.